NCCJ St. Louis, next on City Corner. When it comes to the discussion of race and racism in St. Louis, you hear the name NCCJ St. Louis. It comes up quite a lot when you talk about diversity, dismantling racism. But today we're going to learn more about the organization, what it does. So thank you again for joining me here on City Corner. And I'm now joined by Stefani Weeden-Smith. She's the Program Director of NCCJ St. Louis. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, you know, I feel like NCCJ, when any discussion of race, dismantling racism, inequality comes up, you hear the name, but people aren't quite familiar with the organization entirely about what it does, because it does a lot. Can you just briefly tell me what the organization is?
Yeah, so NCCJ, we have a long history here in St. Louis. We started in 1930 as what some folks remember as the National Conference of Christians and Jews. Out of that, we grew more into social justice work, and so it became the National Conference of Community and Justice. Okay. So we were at that point still all the way in through the 80s and 90s, part of a national network. In 2005, that national network disbanded, and we became our own nonprofit, and to continue a lot of work of dismantling racism and social justice, diversity, equity within this community.
All right, well, before we get into it, you have a lot of programs that you do, a lot of services that you provide to the community. Let's just kind of talk about it, because when we say diversity, inclusion, you know, inequality, inequity, all these things, I think a lot of people are confused. And even the term, I think racism gets perhaps sometimes misused. So maybe let's set the stage. When diversity, inclusion, is there a difference? What is it? Is there a difference between the two?
Well, I mean, I think language is so interesting, and it's evolving so much. And I think, you know, our roots in terms of diversity is where we began. I think as we continue to do the work, we really look at the work of not just diversifying an audience, but how do we help folks to feel more included in communities. And so I've seen this evolution of us really wanting for spaces to be available for everyone.
Okay. What about when we hear inequality and inequity?
And again, it's about language, and some people will interchange those words, equality, equity. A lot of times in education, we talk a lot about equity and trying to find ways that there aren't those big gaps within education for blacks and whites. But I would think in terms of our work, ultimately what we're looking towards is really finding a way that there's liberation. So that there's not, you know, this place that we're trying to find equality, but a place that we really have liberation, that we don't, you know, there's a graphic about equality where there are people stepping on different boxes to be able to see over a fence. And so what our work is really, how do we really dismantle the fence? How do we have a place that there isn't a space that we need to have equality?
And in 2016, I mean, you know, you read the comments section to any sort of news story that involves anything about race, and you will get the side that says racism doesn't exist. There's this, this, and this. And then there's clearly the people who feel that, and naturally so, that it's very prevalent. I mean, when you are out there in the community talking with people, what is sort of the biggest thing that you hear in terms of where we're at? I mean, because it's clear that there's still a struggle that's going on, but when you talk about not even having that fence, how close are we to that? Is that even possible?
Right. I think that where we are is, how do we continue to find ways to continue to engage across difference? How do we find ways to, within ourselves, to know that there is the possibility of change, of a different world? I think folks want to believe that it's not over because it's just too painful to believe that it's still here with us after all these years. And it's better to think, okay, that's long gone, we have this different world. but the world and in our region, it keeps on coming back up that obviously we're not finished. And so it's just finding those ways that we can continue to come together and to be able to find ways that we can really tackle it.
So when we talk about finding ways, let's talk about, you have a lot of programs and services that you sort of offer in the area, and quite busy with that. Let's maybe start off with some of the stuff that you do in terms of diversity training and workshops. Just overall, let's start with those programs.
Excellent. So a lot of the work that we think about our work in terms of building leadership, building capacity, and building support. And in terms of our facilitator, our certification programs, training programs, we think about that in terms of building capacity within organizations. A lot of times the thought was that an incident happens in an organization, nasty words were said in the next, and then you call someone like NCCJ in to do that work. We've really thought about this in a different way. We thought about how do we support organizations to do the work within their organizations. So we've been training folks within Columbia Public Schools, Youth in Need, many other individual counselors and consultants to be able to go into organizations and to really look at their culture and how they can really become a much more inclusive, diverse culture within their organization. So not always having to call us, but really doing that work themselves.
And is that across the board from nonprofit organizations to schools to for-profit, or?
At this point, yes. We haven't, I mean, the bulk of our work is really within schools and in nonprofits, but I've had lots of kind of interest within business and private entities as well on, again, how can we continue to do this work?
Is it that the idea that people are sensitive to how they want to address the issues if it is something based upon racial difference or something that's happened as you just described, or is it's clearly not in some HR packet? I mean, is it just that there's such a sensitivity around it and people want to be sure that they're making that difference, or is it more of a proactive and progressive thought of, hey, we just want all of our staff to be fully sort of equipped to think about everyone and their differences and their backgrounds?
I think for us, it's really being much more proactive. I think the lessons that we've learned from, especially from our community and our region, and what's happened is that we've too many times tried to figure out how to address the problem after something big has happened. And so what these organizations are really making that commitment to diversity. They're really thinking about how do we have a diversity mission statement? How do we integrate this into everything we do, including starting from our hiring practices? Who are our clients? How are we integrating the work and how we address issues with our clients and with our customers or whoever's coming through the doors? And how do we really support all the different identities that come within an organization and help them to feel included within that organization and included in the decision making and be able to make changes there.
And you also have, I know, some events coming up like with a workshop. So is it that you, in addition to anyone really who can contact you who's interested in this, you also go out into the community and do workshops or offer them for people to sign up to get the same type of training? So
definitely, I mean, with the workshops that we have out in the community, what we call like open enrollment, is an opportunity, as we talk about in terms of building support. So really inviting the community to come in. Maybe they've heard us, you know, like you said, sometimes this NCCJ is there, coming in to learn a little bit more about the work, ways that they could, in their corner of their community, be able to enter into dialogues, enter into some ways of changing things that they don't feel comfortable with anymore. And so those workshops are available. We have one coming up on the 22nd of February that's interrupting racism, which is more specific on race. But we also have ones within our multiple identities framework, and what we call kind of our basic inclusion communities foundations on the 21st of March, where you can look at all the different types of identities and isms that are out there and ways that you could really address those.
And so we've got some photos of a panel discussion that I
Yeah.
think now, are these all, in those images, are those all people with NCCJ speaking? What category does this fall under in terms of community outreach?
So this panel discussion came out of last year, out of our big Walk the Talk weekend, and we had a chance to be able to do dialogues throughout the community. I mean, the heart of NCCJ's work is really how do we bridge difference through dialogue. And so these are some community leaders talking about their experiences of really dialoguing across difference and how that they've really found ways to really communicate on these kind of hard issues and being able to really find some ways out of it. I think what we can't do any longer is that we come to places where we're across difference and we decide like, I'm on this side and you're on this side. And people are really making the commitment to go farther, and those are some of the leaders that are doing it.
What do you say when people, I think this comes up quite a bit through workshops and through these discussions, where the people who actually need the training, if you will, need to have that dialogue, aren't the ones who are proactive about it? You know, people talk about diversity and diversity training, and let's have this workshop, and it's the people who are interested are the ones who that's on the forefront of their mind, but those who aren't, it's not even something that would just cross their radar. How do you overcome that, or what do you say in response to that?
Well, I think what's really amazing about our work is that we really provide like the container and some of the strategies on how you can have these dialogues. So many folks leave our workshops like, oh, I can talk to my neighbor who has this sign up or this thing that I don't like, and I can have a conversation with them. So I think it's really, you know, I know we talk about preaching to the choir, but it's that choir really making those steps to have those conversations, those hard conversations, those courageous conversations with folks that they think they have nothing in common with.
I see.
And really finding the commonalities.
So you're saying by even talking further to the people who are lending an ear, who are interested, they themselves can be agents of change?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break. We've got the information, though, for you on the screen. This is the upcoming events that NCCJ St. Louis is hosting. These are workshops that you can go and sign up for. You can head to their website. Again, we've got that information, nccjstl.org, to register Interrupting Racism workshop on the 22nd of February, or Building Inclusive Community workshops taking place on March 21st. Again, visit the website to register. But again, we're going to take a quick break, and when we'll have more with Stefani Weeden-Smith from NCCJ St. Louis.
Experience St. Louis.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today I'm joined by Stefani Weeden-Smith. She is the Program Director of NCCJ St. Louis. We've been talking about sort of the services that NCCJ provides, as well as a little bit of its history. I want to talk about your work with youth, because we kind of covered what you do sort of in the community among adults, but what about young people?
Well, the thing that's really exciting about working with young people and what people know as far as Any Town, and it's an 8-day residential retreat for young people entering or have finished their freshman year of high school and entering into their senior year. Okay. It's an opportunity for them to do a deeper dive and really get a chance to understand and see how in terms of how they are and how they can learn about in terms of social justice education, but learn so much about themselves. It's like no other kind of summer camp that they've probably ever been to. And they get a chance to meet young people throughout the region, also fired up and ready to do this work. I mean, I know last year, many of the young people, they entered in as strangers, but left as family.
And how do they, I mean, is it certain schools that you work with and they automatically sign up, or is it open to any student?
It's open to any student, and we really have a wide range of students that are involved. Applications are available right now for folks to sign up if they're interested in. We both work with high schools and community organizations.
Okay.
If they'd like to send young people to any town. It's such a great opportunity, not only for young people, but also the skills and the leadership that they bring back to their schools and to their communities.
Well, you NCCJ put together some videos, I think, that involve the students. So we've got a copy of that. So we're going to actually take a look at the Anytown video so you can learn a bit more about it. Here it goes.
Anytown Youth Leadership Institute, celebrating over 20 years of developing the next generation of leaders in social justice.
Anytown I first heard of actually through our daughter, Catherine, who attended it last summer. And she had a friend that had attended several years before. And she said, Mom, when I get older, I want to go to Anytown. I'm like, what is Anytown?
Anytown is an 8-day, overnight summer camp that prepares youth to become leaders of social justice. With over 80 years of history, NCCJ STL has been St. Louis's leading provider of diversity training.
Anytown, I'm not going to say that it's a cure for society's ills, but I definitely believe, at one person, one student, one adult at a time, there can be a lot of healing going on.
Anytown changes the way you see the world.
Where it just gives you like a good sense about yourself. And when you have a good sense about yourself and you kind of figured out, a little bit more of, who you are and what you want to do, you have a better outlook on life, period. And it makes you want to do better. And so, now I get up in the morning and I want to go to school. I want to learn. I want to see how far I can push myself.
Makes you more aware and you start analyzing things more and then realize that, I guess I have a lot of issues I still need to work on after the thing.
Anytown promotes positive friendships.
I feel like everyone goes into it very open. They're open with each other, they're open about themselves, so it allows for strong bonds to be made immediately.
What I took from the whole experience, this is what I tell people, I want to break the silence. I want to speak for the silence. So those who are afraid and think they just can't come out of their shell, I want to be there for them and let them know they have somebody.
Anytown staff provide care, support, and expertise. We really believe in having a high staff to student ratio. We have about 2 to 3 students per staff member, and we are full believers in giving a lot of training to our staff ahead at Anytown. So before staff even start working with youth at Anytown, they've had over 40 hours of training with us.
They really know what they're talking about. And, they're serious about it, and they really want this, to try to change the way society is.
It's on the alumni because of some staff saying it's going to be okay, you can make it, let's just come over here, let's just take a break. So staff really support you. They know what you're going through. Half of them are alumni, so they're not just saying, oh, sit here. They've been through the experience, so that really makes you feel better, just open.
What Anytown staff and participants want to tell you.
I didn't have the chance when I was younger, and I feel like doors would have opened sooner and I would have seen things differently.
If you're considering going, you should go. If you're worried about how much time it's going to take, it's literally 1 week in your summer. Summer's 3 months. It's worth it.
The more you push yourself into the discomfort, the more you're going to learn from it. It's something that everybody who's in high school needs to do, and if you're already out of high school, there's adult programs.
Come in, Sarah. I love it, Sarah.
For more information, visit our website, nccjstl.org.
All right, those are some the great videos. You said those were made a few years ago, and in fact, some of those students now are in graduate school. Is that right?
Yes, on the forefront of doing this work out in the community. Yeah.
How important is it to start young, to start this dialogue, and to start getting these this idea and this not really instruction, but to be able to see people in terms of multiple identities and understand that at a young age versus adulthood?
Well, one thing, in looking at our work, we really find how adultist we are. Like, many of the young people have many more of the solutions on how we could live in this community. And so it's just a wonderful opportunity to have them there. I mean, what you'll see even at Anytown is you'll have both adults and youth leading programs equally, so it's not like, oh, because I'm the adult, I have all the knowledge. It's a lot of young people that have a lot of fire in the belly and really want a different world.
It is interesting that when you're young, I think you have sort of more optimism about the world and how to find solutions. And somehow each year experience in the world, when the older you get, it can interestingly take that away. In the first segment, you mentioned going, you are sort of contracted to go to organizations, to schools, to train the staff how to deal with issues of diversity and inclusion. And so you're now starting to do that, is that right, with youth? Is that correct?
Yes, within the last year we have for Youth by Youth Facilitators Bureau. And so that's an opportunity. What we found with Anytown is that folks were so excited about this experience of summer, like that 1 week of summer, but they wanted to continue the work. And so out of that came our expansion program, Ally. So we would meet during the school year and opportunities for them to see what's going on in their corner of the world. But out of that, we were like, what, we have adults always doing these programs and workshops, but young people can also lead those workshops. So through that, they're getting training to be able to do workshops within community organizations, schools, just out in the community, talking about Anytown, talking about this work. We did something about last month with Gateway to Change, where a couple of our alum were able to do a training on about communication for 300 high schoolers.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
When you have the interrupting racism workshop, which is another workshop that you do, what happens there? When you talk about interrupting racism, that's a nice name. That probably is literal in that sense. What takes place during this kind of full day workshop?
Well, during this full day workshop, it's an opportunity for us to, really interrupt our kind of socialization on how we think about race, what's been kind of drilled into our minds. It provides an opportunity for folks to experience and hear stories from other folks from those different identities in terms of race. It gives people an opportunity, not so much, I know a lot of times in this work where we stay in our heads, but really to be able to feel it from here, and through that kind of getting to know folks and coming more from the heart, it really is this kind of intrinsic motivation to be able to do something different. Like, you can't go back.
Right, and you hear this a lot where people say, I want to do something, especially when it comes up to the discussion of privilege, but I don't know how, or I don't know what that means. And I remember once an academic telling me an example. So I said, give me some examples. And he said, it's like if someone's telling a racist joke and you interrupt them in that joke and say, this isn't funny, or you don't laugh at it and you don't participate in it. Or even when someone makes, what they think are just offhand sort of prejudicial statements about a group of people, it's not participating, it's not allowing it to go any further. And they were this person was giving me sort of real world examples. I mean, do you guys just sort of do that as well, to say, this is what you can do in these examples of how to stop, the perpetuation of day-to-day sort of racism in small ways?
Yeah, no, definitely. We give a lot of kind of takeaways and ways for folks to really build some more skills around communicating, especially being like a bystander in some of this work. But our framework is really, before you can even get there, you really have to do your own kind of self-inventory. You have to really be much more real with yourself about the biases that you have. And so really, knowing where kind of we came from, how we were socialized, knowing your own stuff and working on your own stuff to be able to really be able to interrupt in a way that truly can make some change.
And you're saying that for everyone, whether one might see themselves as privileged or not, we all have to sort of self-assess who we are.
Yes, yes. Because in terms of a multiple identity framework, there's areas for which I'm privileged in, areas that I'm more targeted in, but along those lines, I still have a lot of work to do.
I see. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. We've got information for you on the screen that's going to come up. If you want to learn more about NCCJ, you can go to their website. It's a really comprehensive website. It's got a full listing of all their programs, services, its history, its mission, and you can call the number as well, 314-432-2525 on your screen. But you can sign up for a workshop. You can learn more. These are your upcoming workshops. Is there still space to register for them? Yes,
there's still some space available,
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And thank you at home for watching City Corner. And keep it right here on STL TV Experience St. Louis.